At a sugar mill, one wrong step on a quiet roller turns a stopped belt into a moving trap. Behind the main line, two workers in white walk along the idle roller, crossing the belt to reach the other side. The line is stopped, no guards, no lockout, so the roller feels like floor. Without warning, the roller starts. The belt jerks and surges into motion, turning the walkway into a moving surface. The restart drives the belt straight toward the in-running nip between roller and frame, creating a powerful draw-in zone as the once silent line roars back to life and loose items on the belt race into the pinch point. Before crossing or working near rollers, verify isolation and test start. Never ever treat a stopped belt as a safe walkway. On this construction site, an excavator turns a loose ramp into a crushing risk. An excavator sits on a trailer boom over the rear. A ladder ramp lies on the deck as a worker steps in to shift it while the operator grips it with its bucket and slowly creeps the machine forward with him in order to raise it up. As the bucket raises and swings, the loose ramp kicks upright, breaks free, and crashes back to the deck. The impact drives the ramp across the trailer, creating a sudden crush zone between the ramp and the ground. Carrying ramps in an excavator bucket with someone holding them is a shortcut that must never, ever happen. Use lifting points and keep people well away from the swing path. At this loading bay, two forklifts in line turn one shaky pallet into a fall hazard. A truck stands at the dock, its bed stacked with cartons. Alongside the truck, a forklift holds a tall, unstable pallet of boxes raised beside the trailer. Directly behind it, nose to tail, a second forklift waits in the same lane. A worker in the truck bed keeps passing boxes toward the raised pallet, working right at the open edge above the forklifts. As a box is passed out, the rear forklift creeps ahead and strikes the pallet carried by the front machine. The hit shoves the front forklift forward and jolts the tall load, widening the open gap beside the truck. The stacked cartons sway on the shaken pallet above the forklift lane, turning the truck side edge into a fall zone. Never ever run forklifts nose to tail around raised loads and people. Maintain clear separation, use proper work platforms for transfers, and keep workers away from edges above moving equipment. Inside a switchgear room, one breaker turns the lineup into a wall of fire. Two electricians in arc-rated clothing and hard hats work in a narrow switchgear aisle between a row of metal-clad cabinets and a wall. One worker steps back with a test set on the floor, while the other stays at the cubicle front, hands on the racking handle of a draw-out breaker. The equipment is energized, covers closed, and the space around the open cell is the only escape route if something goes wrong. As the breaker is cranked in, the contacts fault and energy finds a path across the bus. In an instant, the cubicle door bulges and an arc flash erupts, blasting flame, molten metal, and a pressure wave down the aisle. The test set, tools, and front of the gear vanish behind a fireball that fills the corridor, turning the switchgear lineup into a corridor of radiant heat and flying metal. Live breaker racking must follow a strict procedure. Use remote racking where possible, verify isolation, wear arc-rated PPE, and keep everyone outside the arc flash boundary. On this site, one weak lift turns a hopper into a falling hammer. Along a muddy site road, a wooden hopper is being lifted by a crane. Two workers stand nearby, supervising and looking up at the suspended hopper, treating the rig like normal equipment as the suspended structure hangs above the work area. Suddenly, the crane's rope snaps, and the entire hopper drops vertically like a hammer, shearing through and slamming into the ground. Dust bursts across the area as the frame crashes into the space directly, splintered timbers and mud flying all over the work area. Working beside or beneath improvised elevated equipment is never ever acceptable. Use properly designed stands, level foundations, and clear no-go zones so if temporary gear fails, it falls where no one is standing. At a busy construction site, one shifting load sends the lift crashing down. Timber tools and scaffolds surround workers preparing to move a green Skyjack lift across the site. The surface below is uneven, a mix of planks and loose dirt supporting the heavy machine. Laughter and chatter fill the air as the operator adjusts his position to drive forward. As the lift rolls ahead, a wooden plank cracks beneath its weight. The board splinters instantly, dropping one wheel and sending the entire platform tilting hard to one side before it topples. The Skyjack slams onto the ground, frame and guardrails jolting as the machine crashes down off its makeshift supports. Never rely on makeshift supports for heavy equipment. Use stable, load-rated ground surfaces and proper cribbing to prevent lift collapse, tip-over, and uncontrolled movement. One risky climb into an active press and a routine task triggers a runaway cycle. The machinery of the factory floor sounds with life, operators managing shifts beside a towering press line. Two workers stand near the control panel discussing a jam inside the chamber. One steps closer, leaning in to inspect the issue, unaware that the press cycle remains active and danger is seconds away. The press arm descends suddenly while the chamber is still open. The stop button is hammered, but the active control circuit keeps the ram driving through its stroke, locking the tooling together around the jammed stock alarm sound, and the frame shudders, revealing how a press that isn't locked out can close with full force the moment its cycle is triggered. Always lock out and tag out before maintenance or clearing jams. Never rely on controls alone. Verify full isolation and zero energy before anyone enters or reaches into any operating machine. At the granite factory, one unexpected movement and a slab of stone causes disruption. Inside the loading bay, polished granite slabs stand upright, ready for transport. A worker in blue sits momentarily on one of the slabs, watching others align the stack. As he rises and steps down to help, the balance of the nearby slab begins to falter. The slab slides forward without warning, its weight breaking free from the stand. The stone sheet rolls off center, then tips, its mass pulling it out of the rack channel. The massive slab crashes down, slamming into the floor and sending dust and fragments across the loading bay as the storage area turns into a collapsed slab zone. Never rest or stand near unsecured slabs. Use clamps, spacers, and barriers. Proper support and separation prevent slab tipping, collapse, and uncontrolled stone movement. One wrong step on the rail yard, and a routine coupling exposes a deadly crush zone. It's a bright morning at the maintenance yard. Workers in reflective vests prepare to couple a steam locomotive to a passenger coach. The gap between them is narrow, the air thick with focus, as one worker steps between buffers, securing the chain and link. As alignment begins, the locomotive inches backward toward the coach while the coupling zone remains open. Without a confirmed clear signal, the buffers close in on the narrow gap as brakes finally engage and movement stops just short of contact. The still standing rail cars show how a few feet of open space between vehicles can instantly become a high-force crush zone the moment one unit moves. Entering the coupling zone is only safe when all rail vehicles are fully immobilized and secured. Communication, hand signals, and lockout confirmation prevent unintended train movement and eliminate crush zones between locomotives and coaches. Inside a small tire shop, one overinflated wheel turns routine work into a blast. In a cramped bay, a technician crouches over a truck tire on the floor, inflating it while he hangs directly over the rim. A red bike stands beside him, and a customer waits against the wall. No safety cage, no clip-on chuck, no distance. The tire suddenly fails, the rim and casing blowing apart. The blast knocks the motorcycle off its stand, slamming it across the floor and hurling fragments, tools, and hardware through the bay as debris scatters in every direction. Never, ever inflate large tires from above the rim. Use a safety cage, a clip-on chuck, and stand clear of the blast zone. Tire safety is distance, not toughness. Keep self outside the blast line and use cages so one failure doesn't send shock and debris through the whole shop. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.